Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise HOBART begins now.
Anti-gambling advocates say a recent play to speed up the rate of Keno games is designed to take money from vulnerable Tasmanians. Operator Federal Group is keeping quiet about the change made without any publicity.
A Keno game every 3 minutes. That's what this earworm ad sells. But it's no longer the case, with the time between the start of games shortened to 2 minutes and 40 seconds. It means if you're sitting at the pub for 2 hours, there's an extra 5 games while you're there. And with Keno running from 9 a.m. until after midnight, there's another 40 games a day.
Again, we see Federal Group trying to find more ways to make money out of vulnerable Tasmanians.
Pokies have headlined the gaming debate in Tasmania. Anti-gambling advocates have pushed for slower spin speeds and say there's a parallel here.
It's quite straightforward. The faster you can play a game, for whatever form of gambling it is, the faster you can lose money.
The move is perfectly legal. Tasmania's Liquor and Gaming Commission doesn't regulate game speed.
I think we should be carefully considering every form of gambling and how effectively we regulate it to make sure we minimise harm.
There's been no publicity around the change, and it's even hard for punters to spot it themselves. Instead of counting down from 3 minutes as each game begins, there's now just a timer from 1 minute 30 as each game ends.
That is sneaky on their behalf for them to do so. That means that there's been no questioning of it. There's been no public scrutiny of it.
Asked about the changes, Federal Group chose only to confirm the games are now 2 minutes and 40 seconds apart. They flatly refused to answer why the change had been made, when it had been implemented, and if they'd properly notified players. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
3 more Tasmanians have died from COVID, taking the toll since the pandemic began to 159. 650 new cases were recorded today, up slightly on yesterday's figures. 84 people are in hospital with COVID, 25 are being treated specifically for the virus, 2 patients are in intensive care. A former serviceman has told the Royal Commission into Defence and Veteran Suicide that he wasn't properly prepared for the experiences he faced on a deployment to Egypt. William McCann was posted to the Sinai Peninsula in 2015 at a time where militants were active in the area. He says constant attacks on his base at one stage saw him freeze. He was eventually diagnosed with PTSD in 2018. The veteran says a pre-deployment briefing talked up the positives.
The pre-deployment focused predominantly on how much fun we would have by being able to see the sights of Egypt and beers and barbecues.
The Hobart hearings wrap up tomorrow with an interim report to be handed to the Governor-General on Thursday. Tasmania Police has created history appointing its first female boss. Deputy Commissioner Donna Adams has been named for the top job and already has a list of things she hopes to address.
A new era for local law enforcement. Tasmania's 15th Police Commissioner, the first female in its 120-year history.
This was a national and international search for our new Police Commissioner, and I'm very proud that Donna has stood head and shoulders above those that applied.
I actually had a very simple ambition, and that was to join the drug squad. And as it turns out, it was an ambition that I didn't fulfil.
From missing out on her dream job, she's risen up the ranks over 35 years, winning numerous accolades.
I think Tasmania has been actually really progressive in the appointment of senior women.
She replaces Darren Hine, who is retiring after 14 years. After a horror year on our roads, reducing the road toll is on her agenda. Getting back to basics on the beat also a key focus.
Refocus all of our energies back on high visibility policing and ensuring that we have a strong focus on policing local issues.
As is the Force's response to the Commission of Inquiry, which has seen attitudes go under the microscope.
Please have the trust to come forward. We will support you. We will listen to you.
Ms Adams will officially begin the new role in October, coming in at a time of great change in Tasmanian society. She's vowed to make the Force representative of the place they work in.
We need to represent the community, and it's that important diversity that will make us able to provide the support.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Jeremy Rockcliffe has confirmed Tasmania's restored parliament will feature 7 members from the current 5 electorates. The Premier has released advice provided by the TEC, which says it would be the most simple, cost-effective method. The TCCI had called for consideration of 7 electorates of 5 in the past week. The restoration will come into effect at the next state election. Tasmanians are being shortchanged in retirement, according to new superannuation figures. Industry Super Australia says local workers missed out on $77 million in a year, which equates to more than $1,300 per person. The CEO says the figure makes a big difference in retirement.
It can punch a huge hole in your nest egg. So we're talking about those Tasmanians that are missing out. On average, they'll be missing out on about $60,000 out of their nest egg when they retire.
The company is calling for laws to change to make sure workers receive super each payday. An operation to remove a second tug from the bottom of the Mersey River has been delayed until tomorrow. Tasport says damage to the York Cove, salvaged on Sunday, has added to the mission's complexities. Crews have encountered multiple challenges setting up the Campbell Cove lift, with divers inspecting the vessel today. Salvage crews anticipate a pre-lift will be required first thing tomorrow before the tug can be safely removed from the port. The state's water supply has received a much-needed boost thanks to heavy rainfall across Hydro Tasmania's catchments. Early last week, supplies dropped below the prudent storage level following an unusually dry first half of the year. Hydro Tasmania says fluctuations are normal during drier periods and could continue over coming weeks. Tasmania has wrapped up its most successful Commonwealth Games outside Australia. Eddie Ockenden and Josh Belts became the last locals to taste victory in Birmingham, a cause for celebration late into the night.
In 7th heaven.
It's now 7 deadly wins for Australia at the Commonwealth Games.
4 of those belonging to Eddie Ockenden.
The dominance of the match was just incredible, and it made everyone back home feel very proud.
Stephen McMullen played in Ockenden's first senior game for Northwest grads and knew he was something special.
His hand-to-eye coordination was brilliant. His commitment and skills were fantastic for everyone to see, and he just lived and breathed hockey.
Alongside the veteran, the newcomer, Hobart's Josh Belts. The party was on for young and old. Our mighty victories included 4 goals to Ariane Titmus, 3 to Georgia Baker, along with bronze to Jake Birtwhistle, Josh Duffy and Jake Templeton. In fact, if Tasmania was competing on its own, our 7 individual golds and 3 bronze medals would have us 12th. But if you throw in the Kookaburra's gold and Nicola Carey's medal in the cricket, we bump up to 8th in the world.
We're just so pleased to see them enjoy some success.
Now to nurture our next generation.
Lots of things to learn when they leave the TIS and go overseas and compete, but we like to think we've given a really good start to their international careers.
New real estate data shows the local market has contracted with fewer sales and fewer buyers, but we're being reassured there's no signs of prices collapsing.
All signs in Tasmania suggest the latest selling frenzy isn't easing anytime soon, despite the changing dynamic of the housing market.
Prices are definitely not collapsing. That's a strong message.
The latest Real Estate Institute of Tasmania report shows interest rate rises are impacting buyer confidence. Vacancy rates are still hovering around 1%, while the number of investors has dropped sharply.
To us, it's a concern. We want to see that grow substantially. To satisfy the demand, and it's gone the other way.
Sales also declined for its second consecutive quarter, down just over 6% since March, although real estate agents say there's no cause for alarm.
The market's still strong and buyers are positive, there's no doubt about that.
Open home foot traffic is diminishing, although offers are aplenty.
We were sort of getting 15 or 16 groups go through every open home there at one stage. It's down to probably 5 or 6 groups on average now, but we're still getting multiple offers on most properties.
As the market moves through a transition phase, buyers and sellers are being urged to remain patient. McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
Meanwhile, sanitation mats are the latest addition to the front line in our battle to stay foot and mouth free. Mats have been installed at all air and sea ports to reduce the risk of the disease entering our state.
So they're basically a rubber mat that with a reservoir in the bottom that we fill with citric acid, a dilute citric acid solution. So that's a low pH solution.
While the risk is really low of it coming into Australia, the consequences have the potential to absolutely devastate our agricultural industry.
Biosecurity officers are currently in place at our borders, checking with all passengers if they have visited Indonesia. Drivers have escaped serious injury following a multi-car crash in Launceston this morning. The Charles and Howick Streets roundabout was blocked after a camper van collided with a trailer being towed by a Jeep, which then hit a parked car. Early investigations suggest alcohol and speed may have been factors in the collision. It's one of Australia's biggest killers, claiming more victims in Tasmania than anywhere else in the country. A local stroke survivor has today shared his story in a bid to help others.
5 years ago, Michael Whittle thought he was invincible until a sudden stroke saw him rushed to hospital, coming out a completely different man.
I couldn't read or write. I lost sight in my right eye. My short-term memory basically disappeared.
Stroke is something that can happen to anyone at any age. We have children and infants who have strokes.
Stress, high cholesterol and unhealthy habits contributing to the incident.
I spent 20 years in the Royal Australian Navy, and so I smoked a pipe.
Now fully recovered, Michael is sharing his story, educating others about the leading causes of strokes and signs to look for.
80% of all strokes that occur could be prevented.
On par with South Australia, Tasmania has some of the worst stroke statistics in the country. Our older demographic and poor health records to blame.
Around 660 Tasmanians will experience their first stroke this year, and more than 11,000 Tasmanians will be already living with the outcome of a previous stroke.
Donning the Stroke Foundation's colours, Burnie's civic buildings will glow green and blue this week, bringing attention to one of Australia's biggest killers. BRIANNA BOYLEN, 7 Tasmania News.
It's the season of love for Launceston, with a production of Rent opening tomorrow night at the Princess Theatre. More than 100 students from Launceston College are performing in the popular musical.
It's been absolutely fantastic. We've got one of the strongest casts that we've ever put together, and everybody's been deep in rehearsal since February this year.
The rehearsals have been very, very full on, and in the best way possible. We've, big dance numbers, and then we go into the more heavy and emotional acting scenes, and I think those times with the principal cast has been good times to bond.
The show runs until Saturday. Tickets are still available through the Theatre North website.
Tasmania's athletes are savouring their success, including Burnie-born swimmer Jake Templeton, who produced the swim of his life at the Games to claim bronze. Reflecting on his achievement, the visually impaired swimmer says he had to hold off celebrations until officials told him the result. If the intensity of a 50 metres freestyle final wasn't enough, Jake Templeton's visual impairment added an extra challenge.
Going well is Templeton.
But the Tasmanian responded, pressing the fire button to blitz Birmingham's pool in the fastest race he's ever swum.
Templeton gets the bronze.
A result Templeton wasn't aware of straight away.
I got out of the pool and actually asked one of the volunteer officials to read my name to me and what time I got and where I came, and once I heard that I was pretty stoked.
That agonising uncertainty gave way to uninhibited relief as he stepped onto the podium in front of his family.
It was pretty cool to be able to, once I put my glasses on, be able to see where those guys were up in the stands and give them all a wave.
Templeton's result came an incredible 6 years since he last represented Australia overseas at the Rio Olympics. The boy from Burnie's remained grounded that whole time. He still calls Devonport his favourite pool in the world. But his next dream destination has a population more than 100 times that of his hometown, Paris, host of the Olympics in 2 years' time.
Everyone's back to square one again. So that's the thing that I like about sport, that there can be ups and there can be downs, but once you start again, no one's ahead.
He may be back on an even keel now the games are over, but there's one souvenir he has all to himself.
Pretty damn awesome.
Good evening. Hobart and Launceston 14 degrees today, Burnie 13 and Devonport 12. Smithton, Friendly Beaches, Grove and King Island also on that high of 14. Flinders Island, Lowhead, Bushy Park and Strawn 13. St Helens 12. Lyawini the low with -6. A fine, generally sunny day over the state today. A little low cloud over the west and just a touch over the northeast off the coast. There is a cloud band over central WA reaching over South Australia. A cold pool of air is over southwest and Western Australia as well. Tomorrow, ridges of high pressure sit over both the east and west of the country. The low and cold front move over the Bight, clipping South Australia. Winds tending north-northeasterly and increasing to 20 to 30 knots over the northwest in the afternoon. Lighter winds over the inland lakes. Strong wind warning has been issued for waters between La Rocky Point and Stanley. Icy roads may be on the cards in the morning. We have a road weather alert for parts of the central north, Midlands, east coast, upper Derwent Valley and southeast. Forecast for tomorrow, Hobart a top of 14, a sunny day, a cool start. For Geeveston, in fact, 1 to a top of 13, -5 for Bothwell. Thank you very much. 11 the high tomorrow, but a sunny afternoon. Launceston, a morning frost, partly cloudy, 13 the top, 13 for Devonport as well. Morning frost and partly cloudy for Cressy and 12 the maximum. Burnie a high of 12 with a shower or two, but sunny for Strawn with 14 and 13 for Curry, a late shower moving over King Island. Cloudy for St Helens, 13 the top, Swansea 13 as well, and Orford completing the trifecta. On Thursday, showers increasing over the northwest as light showers extend to most other districts. Scattered showers on Friday, mainly about the north with light winds, and on Saturday showers grading from just a possibility in the west to increasing over the east and southeast. An early shower in Perth, showery and 15 for Adelaide, a cool start in Melbourne with morning fog, -4 in Canberra ahead of a sunny afternoon, a shower over Sydney but sunny and 21 in Brisbane. Partly cloudy in Hobart, 7, clear in Launceston 7 right now and clear and 8 in Devonport. Might just pop home now, Louise, and find that old album I was given when I was 12 years old, If Not For You, with the Banks of the Ohio on it and a couple of other great classics. And of course she gave us plenty of songs, didn't she? Let Me Be There in the morning, Let Me Be There in the night, Sam, Please Mr. Please, and of course all the disco hits as well. Bit of a sad day, wasn't it?
It was a sad day. It certainly was. Thanks for that, Merv. And that's all your news for this evening. I'll be back later on with updates. Thanks so much for joining us. Good night.